We just finished today's Beyond the Gates. It is Monday, August 17th, 2026. Can you believe that we are barreling towards the end of August already? It's amazing. But Beyond the Gates, a lot happened today. A lot of good conversations were had. Not a lot of story movement per se, but it looks like they're laying the groundwork for a couple of things. So let's jump into it. We return to where we left off on Friday in Heather's hotel room at the Bowman, where Andre has walked in and is startled that she's there, even though he pretty much assumed it was her who was sending champagne in the texts. But he's still shook. He's still looking scared. And we do learn why a little bit later in the episode, actually towards the end of the episode. But Heather is very doing the seductress. She's very familiar. She's touching him. He's uneasy. She's playing the vixen. They give us, they basically, through physicality, are letting us know that these two characters have been intimate. These aren't two people who just happen to know each other in a past life, right? She says she's missed him. You can tell that he's anxious and he's nervous by her presence. She talks about his impromptu Vegas wedding. So we know that she has been keeping tabs on him. Maybe she found out through social media, but maybe she has been keeping tabs on him, and she talks about sending the champagne. He says, I wasn't sure that was you, since there was no note or anything. Then she says, how about we have a drink? And he asks if it's her usual. So again, establishing that these two characters are very familiar and have been intimate with one another. So he makes them some drinks. And Heather talks about Dani, and she pretends that she just knows that Dani is a former supermodel. She does not let on that she has indeed met Dani and befriended Dani. So we've got another secret. Andre and Dani seem to be the secret keepers of Beyond the Gates these days. So secret number 3. But Andre lets Heather know that he thinks Dani is amazing and he's very happy. And she wants to hear, she keeps prodding. She wants to hear more about Dani, but she also thinks that he has rushed into marriage. And he asks, well, what brought you to the DMV? There's no fashion week around here. So he met her through fashion because he's a photographer. Remember, she owns a piece of that fashion house, which we know is just a cover for her crime business. She says she came to see her brother. He didn't know she had a brother. And then she tells him that her brother owns the casino. I can't remember the name. I didn't write down the name of the casino, but he owns the casino. Andre, being smarter than the average bear, puts it together and says, your brother is Joey Armstrong. So now he's really, because he knows Joey's reputation. So now he's like, oh my God, this batshit family, batshit crazy family that I'm involved in now. But he says, oh, but your last name isn't Armstrong. And she says, no, when I left the country, I became Wallach. So her name is Heather Wallach. I don't know that we ever knew her last name before today, but yes, her name is Heather Wallach. She dropped Armstrong after she left the country. And, she makes a line. She has a line that says that her relationship with Andre wasn't about sentiment. So that's also to give the audience a clue that this was raw sexuality. It wasn't love. It was physical, and she just wants more, it seems. Joey doesn't know that she was seeing Andre, so there's not a connection there. I thought that maybe he did know, and that was also just a part of his bet with Dani, because in the back of his head, he knew that Heather and Andre, had been involved with his sister, but it seems that Joey didn't know. That could always change, but it seems like that's the case. Heather does kiss Andre. He kisses a little back, and then he pulls away. He says this can't happen, and he leaves. He's out in the hallway, again, he's just shook. He's, trembling and just all over the place. Heather says her line after the door closes is goodbye for now. So we know that Heather plans on sticking around, and she plans on getting the man that she wants. Now, I will say this. I ranted on Friday at the end of Friday's video. If you didn't hear that rant, go back to Friday's recap video. I ranted. I'm just going to say it again. Like, on paper, on its face, I don't mind the story, right? Andre, we've been saying for a year that Andre should have a secret. That it seems like Andre, there was something going on with Andre ever since, we found out that he didn't want his picture taken. So, yes, a story about Andre's past does make sense. Why this new character is eating up so much story on the show? She's involved, I think Kaya said it was like she's in like 3 or 4 stories. And that's a lot. That's more than Anita is in. She's the matriarch, so she touches, different, she talks to different characters, but Anita at the moment is not driving any story. Nicole at the moment is not driving any story. So again, at the moment, Vernon is not driving any story. So I would like to know why this new character, who happens to be a white woman on a show that's supposed to be about a predominantly black family, wealthy black family, is involved in all these stories, in multiple stories on the show, when we've got established characters that we've been living with for well over a year now, a year and a half. I'm going to throw Leslie in there as well. Leslie does not have a story. Leslie has vignettes, just like Nicole has vignettes, but they do not have stories. Dani has a story. So I am confounded, and I just really wish that somebody in the soap press would ask the question. I know that it's difficult to push with the writers and the exec producers because they want to get interviews and they want to make sure that they have access. But this is just this is very confounding. It's somewhat of a turnoff. I'm going to give grace and say that I do suspect that it's probably part of a network note and something the network wants, but still, even if it is, the network is wrong. Okay, end of Heather rant for now. We move over to the Dupree mansion where Anita, Kat, and Chelsea are having some catch-up time, but they also want to show Anita a new bag design. I tell you, these two should be international. They are international at this point, but they are moguls because they whip out bag designs and jewelry designs and, like nobody's business. And, so they've got this new bag and, the manufacturer couldn't get a prototype. But they have a 3D design and, so they show Anita on the iPad, and Anita loves it. And she thinks it's going to be called the Nicole because Kat says we're naming it after mom. But a competitor has already dropped a Nicole bag. And listen, I will say, like I've said it before, I am not a fashion gay. So I don't know I was like, oh, they really do name bags after, they just give people, They give bags people names like that. So I honestly thought it was just a Beyond the Gates thing for the Anita baby. So I was like, oh, so all the places are just naming bags with real people names. Okay. So I guess that's a thing. But because there's already a Nicole bag on the market, they were thinking of calling it the Nikki. And Anita's like, do you want to get disowned? Your mother hates that name. She hates nicknames, especially because it was given to her by Leslie, which is because we know she like Naughty Nikki, but I'm like, I was surprised Anita knew that. And I guess, it's information she could have learned off screen, but I didn't realize that Anita knew that they called her Naughty Nikki. But they explain how they wanted to do something in Nicole's honor and how, she can claim it because this is the emergence of a new Nicole and she can own it. So she can take something that, this name that was given to her for ridicule, but claim it and own it as a sign of her rebirth. So Anita suggests that before they officially name it and tell anybody about it, that they run it by Nicole. But it's cute. Like when's the Vernon satchel coming out, guys? Listen, Beyond the Gates. I know they sell the bags in life. I know you can go onto there's a website that you can go and sell the bags. I've been saying that they should do the accessories and the the clothes and stuff too. Like Beyond the Gates should just really lean into the fact that they have incredible clothing and but I know that some of their stuff comes from actual designers, so they're not designing all the stuff. But it would be cool. I would, even if it's just accessory, even if it's just earrings and necklaces and things like that they collaborated with a designer on. We could keep this show on for 40 years just through that, because where it's tied for Breeze and Cascade, we haven't seen them in months. They're not doing their job. So anyway, they move on to talking about Kat's recovery. She says it's going well because Kat's been up and about since the day she left the hospital. So it's she didn't get any rest on the sofa with people bringing her cornbread and potato soup. But Kat says she feels great. She is actually relieved that she went through with the organ donation, with the transplant, that she owes it to them because they listened to her without judgment. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, Kat, especially when it comes to Chelsea, but okay, if that's how you remember it, listen. And she also says that she thinks that if Eva grew up with someone like Anita, she would be a different person. And Anita's like, oh, that's an interesting concept. And they, are you warming to Eva? And Chelsea's like, yeah, are you? Chelsea's so eager for Kat to have a relationship with Eva that it kind of boggles my mind. But anyway, which it's fine. If she ultimately decides she wants to, it's fine. But it's also again, Kat gets to process things at her own pace and shouldn't have to be pushed into a relationship with somebody that has done such terrible things to her. The other thing that I want to say is I've often said that I don't necessarily believe that Eva really wanted a relationship with Kat. What a relationship with Kat was ultimately absolution for Eva. Kat was the last piece of the puzzle of the absolution puzzle for Eva, where, she's been practically forgiven but for all her sins by everybody in Fairmont Crest, and Kat is the only holdout. And I will say that I also believe, I was thinking about it today, I also believe the same is true for Ted. Not that he doesn't want a relationship with Kat, even though, but I do think that the reason why he's been pushing Kat so hard to embrace Eva and have a relationship with her is that it's absolution for him as well. Because if both of his children can accept Eva and have a relationship with her, then he's a good father. He's not the bad guy. He has accepted the daughter he didn't know about, brought her into his life, given her a job. She's probably got a trust fund now, along with Leslie, along with the money that Leslie has. And the last piece of his absolution puzzle would be Kat as well. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Anyway, but she says that Kat does say that if Martin, Smitty, the kids, and Chelsea can see something in Eva, maybe she's not the cartoon villain she's made her out to be. Kat, you're not wrong about, like, the woman slept with your boyfriend, and maybe that's easy. Maybe you could get past that part of it. But the part that's difficult, that needs an apology, is for the way she treated you when you caught them after they slept together. Like, that's the thing. Like, if Eva would just own up to that and apologize, I think that then it would be easy for viewers and Kat to swallow the believability that these two people could actually have a relationship. And Anita says, Eva's feelings for you are probably just as complicated. So there we go. Vernon arrives, because he was over to see Bill, which we'll talk about in a minute. He talks about the empire of Chelsea Cat. They talk, he saw Bill. Tomas was there, but Haley wasn't anywhere in sight. Chelsea's going to leave to go see her father. Kat has more work to do for Tokyo. Now, they must have pushed Tokyo back, because remember, after the tornado and after her surgery, they were like, oh, you can't go to Tokyo, no flying. But now, like, Tokyo's like in the fall, in October or something, and it seems like she's going, but okay. So they both leave. Later on, Anita and Vernon have a conversation about Bill, who has told Vernon that he's not trying to break up Dani's marriage. Anita doesn't believe him, but Vernon says, listen, we've talked to both of them now. It's up to them to make sure that nothing happens. Over at Bill's office, Naomi is filling in for Bill while he's gone. He's asked her to fill in at the firm. Excuse me. That's what carbonated water will do for you. Dani's there with her, and Dani asks how everything's going, and Naomi's like, everything's good except for Tomas. And Dani's like, how dare he even question you being here? This is your father's firm. And Naomi's like, yeah, and the thing that nobody seems to realize is that I have not joined the firm. I am just filling in. And she's like, well, and he's almost family. What if he and Kat get married? And Dani just laughs. Dani is like, Dani knows her daughter. Dani knows her daughter, Kat. Dani knows that Kat, she said, did you see her face when he proposed? She's not marrying that boy. And he's like, and Naomi's like, well, they practically live together now that, Kat has the condo that we're never going to see, it seems. And Dani's like, listen, Tomas needs to play his part. This is about family loyalty. And that's the thing. So I know that there was a character from the show that likes to jump into the comments and talk about how Tomas, gets to choose his destiny. Listen. Listen. Tomas is a junior partner at a law firm where presumably there are senior partners. Tomas, just because Bill is out sick, does not mean that Tomas takes over the reins. That is silly. That is just absolutely silly for anybody to think. Yes, would it make sense for Tomas to step up while Bill is sick? Absolutely. How about Tomas worry about bringing in some clients and some billable hours? Because remember, Bill told him that he's not doing that. He's not doing the thing that Bill wanted him to do, but that other woman who got passed over for the promotion is. Anyway, and then they start talking about Bill and Dani calling Bill her husband. And Dani's like, listen, I love Andre. He knows, like, we share everything, no matter how scary it is. So he knows I told him about the whole, like, why I was at the hospital. My feelings for Bill is in the distant past. Then Tomas comes in, and he didn't see Dani standing there. So he got that look on his face, as much of a look as he can muster up. And he was ready to start something, but Dani's like, hey, Tomas, and, starts talking him up, and how he's, he starts talking about how he's spending most nights at Kat's condo. And Dani's like, you should go and take the rest of the day off and spend time with Kat. And he's like, no, I have work to do. But ultimately, he and Naomi get into it again, and he does take the rest of the day off. Please cuss him out, Naomi. Later, Jacob brings Naomi some food, and they talk about Dani and Andre because Jacob saw Andre over at Uptown, wallowing away in drinking. He assumes it's about Dani, but we know it's really about Heather. Tomas had visited Bill in his hospital room, given him some files. Naomi was annoyed about that too when she found out that Tomas gave Bill files, and Tomas is like, well, he's my boss, I can't tell him no. And Naomi says, well, you should at least keep me in the loop. And Tomas is like, well, I'm not gonna be spying. Hey, remember, Tomas, Bill asked you to spy on your girlfriend's family. Fool, idiot, prick, robot. So anyway, but over at the hospital room, Bill asks Tomas how he and Naomi are getting along, and Tomas, kind of shrugs it off and doesn't get into it. Vernon interrupts. He's there to see Bill. Tomas leaves. Vernon, calls Bill a pillar of the community, but and Vernon has Bill's room. I guess Bill's not in a private room, but he has whoever was with Bill moved to a different room. And then they address Haley's cheating rumors, and Bill is like, he's a platonic, Sammy is a platonic friend of Haley's, and then Vernon's asking if Bill is trying to rekindle something with Dani, and Bill says, I'm not interested in Dani. Vernon says that's good because Andre's a good husband. And basically Vernon ends the conversation with, don't make me come back here. I don't want to have this conversation again. So, and then Chelsea shows up to the hospital room. I keep saying hotel, to the hospital room. And she sees him reading that file, and she takes it from him, and she's asking where Haley is. And he says that she's up in pediatrics checking on some books she donated. I think it's a cover. I think it's a lie. Bill doubles down on it, but Chelsea doesn't believe him. He talks about their decision not to have children. Chelsea's not upset about it. She doesn't want Bill tied to Haley forever. And when she says that, Bill has a look on his face where he's not upset about what she just said, because he's like, I don't really want to be tied to her forever either. So can we move that story along? Over at Uptown, Jacob is meeting with Isaiah and Grayson. There's some kind of surprise for Naomi later in the week, so that part of Jacob and Grayson's conversation happened. And then he's meeting with Isaiah. They talk about Darlene coaching Caroline through CPR to save Bill. They talk about Naomi being at Bill's office, and they get into Eva's PTSD and how so much has changed with people getting along, and Eva and Kat having a fragile truce, and that Leslie's being peaceful. And then, Jacob asks about Haley and Leslie hanging out together and how he saw them at the hospital, with their heads together. And Isaiah's like, that's crazy. Hey, Isaiah, why don't you mention that Haley has come on to you a few times? People, Isaiah, you're still on my list. And then they see Andre day drinking alone, and Jacob assumes that it's about Dani. We talked about Naomi and Tomas. So, Tomas is an idiot, and I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end for that character. Dani arrives home. She's looking for Andre. The house is empty. She tries to call him. It goes directly to voicemail. Andre's at Uptown. He's ordering double drinks. He's, getting drunk. Jacob goes to talk to Andre at the bar about Bill and Dani. It's, the drama is just how they're wired, and, Andre's like, he knows that he and Dani share something special. But Jacob says, listen, if you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. But Andre, because Jacob doesn't realize that Andre's really distracted about Heather, Andre just seems uninterested in Jacob's ear. And then Jacob says something really weird. He says, give Dani my regards, which is such a weird thing for a son-in-law to say, to send to his mother-in-law. Tell Dani I said hi. Send her my love. Hey, tell her I said what's up. But send her my best regards? That is craziness. Those Hawthorns are weird. So then, Andre starts out, he has a flashback. So we get a bunch of information compacted into a flashback. This was a very useful device. So Andre's at that little airport set and he's meeting with this guy with a British accent. And he tells him how he met this woman. I'm reading off my notes, sorry. Named Heather Wallach. And the reason, and the guy says, well, she's the reason, because Andre's like, I'm seeing this woman named Heather Wallach. And the guy says, she's the reason I stepped away from the force. So he was a police officer over there. And he was undercover inside her organization. And he saw things. She's lethal. Andre had no clue in the flashback. But he did see something he wasn't supposed to. And he took a picture and he was going to show the guy. And the guy was like, don't show me. I don't want to know. You don't want to know. You should delete it. Now, it looks like Andre might have deleted the photo, but maybe he did not. Maybe he still has it. And the guy tells Andre, Heather will kill you and your loved ones. She will kill you, eat your carcass, and do the same to your loved ones. So that's how we find out that, I would rather, good. We know that even somebody else is scared of Heather, but show us, because I still haven't seen how terrifying the Impaler is supposed to be. Those little beat ups and stabbings with a scalpel that you recover from do not count. But Dani shows up at Uptown. Ashley called Dani because Grayson told Ashley that Jacob needed a ride home. So Dani's not super happy with Andre. Andre says he's not mad at her. Nothing is wrong. He's just got a lot on his mind. Over at the coffee bar, Kat and Tomas meet up. She's working on a new marketing campaign for the new bag. He wants her to take a break with him and play hooky. She says she can't. She's building buzz for the new bag. She has work to do on Tokyo, but he won't take no for an answer. He keeps pushing, and Tomas keeps doing this. And Kat she stood her ground. She was like, no, I can't. I have work to do. But why don't you go work out at the gym? And so he goes off. He's upset. And then Isaiah comes up. And Kat's like, hey, guy, come sit down and join me. I can take a break. I hope they're not setting up a triangle between Isaiah, Kat, and Eva, because I don't know that any of us could really take it at this point. But he's buying sneakers, and he says he likes the new bag or whatever because he still gets Chelsea Cat notifications because he bought a bag for his mother, and she shows it off at church all the time. And so she gives him a preview of the new bag. And he was thinking about getting the Nikki for Eva, and Kat says, oh, it's a limited release, very limited release. And then they kind of giggle and laugh. So it wasn't, it was all in fun, I believe. So it was a good episode. I have to say, Beyond the Gates Monday episodes have been improving a lot. But today was good because we did get more information about the Andre-Heather relationship and who Heather is, what her reputation is. I still don't care. I don't care about the Impaler. I never want to hear the word again. I still think it's a bust. The Impaler was a bust. Having 2 Heather reveals in the same year is a bust. She's eating up the show, or she's starting to eat up the show, because I can see the writing on the wall, and I'm not here for it. But I guess we just have to tune in tomorrow. But hey, Beyond the Gates, give Nicole a story. Hey, Beyond the Gates, give Leslie a story. Hey, Beyond the Gates, give Eva a story aside from having that scar. Hey, Beyond the Gates, give Kat a story. Give these, we fell in love with these characters over the course of a year and a half. These are the people we want to have stories, and we don't want them to be supporting Joey and Vanessa and Heather. That's not what we're asking for. So, but we'll have to see what we get. I'll see you guys later.